Nerve fiber. We know that neuron is made up of three parts: dendrites, cyton, and axon. So when the axon part of various neurons come together, it is going to form a thing called as nerve fiber. This nerve fiber can even be more than a meter long. And this nerve fiber are of two types: myelinated nerve fiber and non-myelinated nerve fiber. Myelinated is also called as medulated, and non-myelinated is also called as non-medulated. The difference is in their covering. So if the covering of myelin sheath is present around this nerve fiber, it would be called as myelinated, and this is going to give it a white appearance, because of which we will find them in the white matter of the brain and spinal cord. But when we talk about the non-myelinated or non-medulated, they will not have the covering of myelin sheath, and hence they are found in spinal nerve, cranial nerve, and autonomic nervous system. Nerve. Nerve is a bundle of nerve fiber which is enclosed in a common sheath of connective tissue, and these nerves can arise from brain or from spinal cord. If the nerve is arising from brain, it will be called as cranial nerve, and the nerve arising from spinal cord would be called as the spinal nerve. Now talking about the next thing, which is called as the synapse. So synapse is the space between the two neurons. For example, if this over here is going to be knob of first neuron, and here are the dendrites of the second neuron. So this space in between them, this space, this would be referred to as the synaptic cleft. So the terminal knob of axon lie in close contact with, see over here, terminal knob of axon is going to lie in close contact with the end of the dendrite of next neuron, and this point is called as the synapse. Now the space or the gap between these two neurons is called as the synaptic cleft. Our impulse is going to travel this gap. So there are certain chemicals at this knob, and this chemical would be released and then perceived by the dendrite, and in this way the electrical impulse is going to be transmitted from the neuron 1 to the neuron 2. So electrical impulse from axon of one neuron to the dendrites of the next neuron pass through the synapse as a chemical message. So now here we can see the synapse. So this is our first neuron and this is the second neuron. This is the nerve ending of the first neuron, and these are the dendrites of the second neuron. If we zoom into it, we can see a image like this, and this space between the two neurons, this is called as the synaptic cleft, and these are the chemicals, this structure, this is the chemical which is going to travel this synapse, and in this way the electrical impulse would be carried forward. Now let's take a look at neuromuscular junction. Neuromuscular, the word itself suggests that it is the contact between the neuron and the muscle. So, when the motor neuron is going to connect to the muscle cell, it has a region which is called as neuromuscular junction. So, it is a point of contact between the end plate of axon of motor neuron to the surface of the muscle cell. In the image, we can see this is going to be the end part of the axon of motor neuron, and this is the muscle cell, and this has a connection over here. Here there will be certain space also, and this part is called as the neuromuscular junction, and you will be having a knob like structure like this, and this structure is filled with the chemical, and here there would be certain space. The space is called as the synaptic cleft, and these chemicals are going to travel this space, and then they are going to come into the contact to this muscle cell. Now here's the image of neuromuscular junction. So this is the knob which is filled with chemical. This chemical is called as the neurotransmitter, and one example of neurotransmitter is acetylcholine. This chemical is going to be released from this knob, and it is going to travel this space called as the synaptic cleft, and then it will enter the sarcolemma of the muscle cell. Now in the muscle cell there is going to be excitation which is going to cause the entire muscle to contract. Now let's take a look at what this nerve impulse is. So nerve impulse is nothing but a signal that is traveling the entire length of the nerve fiber, and we know that in a copper wire electric current is being carried. Similarly, this nerve impulse or the signal is being carried into our nerve fiber. Let's take a look at the pathway of the nerve impulse. So nerve impulse is going to arise at the receptor neuron. So end of receptor neuron is responsible for producing this nerve impulse. Now from this end of the receptor neuron, it is going to move towards the sensory neuron, and the first part of sensory neuron is dendrite, after that the cell body, and then the axon. So here one neuron is going to end, then you will be having synapse. From the synapse, the electrical impulse is going to jump towards the next neuron. The next neuron that we have is interneuron, and again this interneuron will also have dendrite, cell body, and axon. Now this interneuron will finish over here, and then again the synapse is there from where it is going to go to the next neuron. The next neuron is motor neuron. Again the same thing, dendroid, cell body, and axon. And after that the motor end plate is there because it is a neuromuscular junction, and then the target organ.